Thank you for joining us on our adventures through the land of fairy tales. This is our 50th and final fairy tale from the book 50 Famous Fairy Tales. This is Rumpelstiltskin. In a certain kingdom, there once lived a poor miller who had a very beautiful daughter. She was shrewd and clever, and the miller was so vain and proud of her that he told the king of the land that his daughter could spin gold from straw. Now, this king was very fond of money, and when he heard the miller's boast, he ordered the girl to be brought before him. Then he led her to a room filled with straw, gave her a spinning wheel, and said, "All this must be spun into gold before morning, or if you will forfeit your life." In vain, the poor maiden declared that she could do no such thing. The door was locked. She sat down and began to weep over her hard fate. Suddenly a door opened, and a droll little man hobbled in. "Good day to you, my good lass. Why are you weeping?" he asked her. "Alas," she answered, "I must spin this straw into gold, and I do not know how." "What will you give me," asked the little man, "to do this for you?" "My necklace," replied the maiden. The little man took her at her word and sat down to the wheel. Round and round the wheel went, merrily and merrily. Presently all the straw was spun into gold. When the king came and saw the gold, he was greatly pleased, but his heart grew still ever more greedy, and he again shut the miller's daughter into the room with a large pile of straw. She did not know what to do, so she sat down and began to weep again. Presently the same little man opened the door and said, "What will you give me for your task?" "The ring on my finger," the maiden replied. So her little friend took the ring and began to work at the wheel. By morning the straw was all spun to gold. The king was delighted to see all the glittering treasure, but still was not satisfied. He took the miller's daughter into a still larger room filled with straw, and said, "If all this is spun into gold before morning, you shall be my queen." As soon as the girl was alone and the dwarf came in, "What will you give me to spin the straw into gold for you a third time?" "I have nothing left to give you," the maiden said sadly. "Then promise me," the little man said, "you will give me your firstborn child when you are queen." "That may never be," said the miller's daughter, as she thought there was no way to get the task done. She promised the little man what he asked and immediately began to spin. When the king came in the next morning and found all the room filled with gold, he kept his promise and married the miller's daughter, and they lived happily enough. With the birth of her first child, the queen was filled with joy and forgot all about the little man and her promise. One day he came to her chamber and reminded her of it. She was grieved at the thought of giving up her child, and offered him all the treasures of the kingdom instead. But he pleaded, but she pleaded in vain. The little man did not want treasure. At last her tears softened him, and he said, "I will give you 3 days' grace. If during that time you can tell me my name, you shall keep your child." The queen lay awake at night, thinking of all the names she'd ever heard. In the morning she dispatched messengers all over the land to inquire of new ones. The next day, when the little man came, she began with Throckmorton, Florizel, Peramond, and all other unusual names she could remember. But to all of them he said, "That's not my name." The second day she began with comical names that she had heard of, Bandy-legs, Pigeon-toes, and the like. But every one of them the dwarf said, "That is not my name." The third day, one of the messengers came back to report, "I heard no other new names. But yesterday, as I was climbing a high hill in the trees of the forest where a fox and a hare bid each other good day, I saw a little hut, and before that burnt a fire, and around the fire a funny little man danced on one leg and sang, 'Today I brew, and then today I bake. Tomorrow the queen's child I'll take. The queen will never win this game, for Rumpelstiltskin is my name.'" When the queen heard this, she jumped for joy, and soon her little visitor came, and she said, "Now, lady, what is my name?" "Is it John?" she asked. "No." "Is it Tom?" "No." "Can your name be Rumpelstiltskin?" "The witches told you! The witches told you!" shrieked the little man. Enraged, he stamped his right foot so hard on the floor he was forced to take hold of it with both hands to pull it out. Off he rushed, and he was never seen from again, even from this day to this.